Good evening, guys. I'm Hari from BITS Goa. I welcome you all to QSTP Talks with Abhinav Gupta, an alumni from our campus. He was a BE Honours in Electronics and Instrumentation from 2013 to 2017 from our campus. He is currently working with the e-commerce giant Flipkart as a software development engineer since March 2019 in Bangalore. He's also worked with Oracle as an application development engineer for nearly 1.5 years. So I welcome you, sir, to this session. We are very excited to hear from you and interact with you. The stage is all yours.
Sure. Thanks a lot for that introduction, Hari. I'll just start presenting my screen. I have a slide. Sure. Just if you could confirm once it is visible or not. Sure. Is my screen visible?
Yeah.
Sure. Sure, so I'll just proceed. Here's me, Abhinav Gupta. Thanks, Hari, for the introduction. I think to my fellow fellow Bitchians, it is a pleasure coming here and giving this being a guest speaker at the premium technical festival at Squawk. So I'm glad to be part of this. So I'll be talking a bit about myself, my journey in bits, something about the placements, my first company, and maybe like a little bit about my current company, that is Flipkart. Please feel free in case there is any disturbance or any questions that you would like to ask me. We will also be having something like a question answer round at the end. So that can be used as well. We'll get going. Sure. So I'll just start with my journey at BITS, basically. About that, basically, it was something that was dominated by the three P's. If you know, you know. But don't get me wrong. For me, it meant best friends, bunking, and badminton. That is what it was for me. About myself, I am my ID would be 2013 A8 PS 4803. I think that is something you all can relate to more. Basically, I'm a 2017 graduate. I did my early graduation, so you can consider that to be 2016 December as well. So that's about the degree. So the course that I was part of, that is electronics and instrumentation. That is commonly known as ENI at BITS. So basically, somewhere in my second year or third year, I realized that I had more interest in coding as compared to electronics. So second year was more about like the confusion whether I want to continue with electronics or whether I want to get into coding. Somewhere around third year, I got the clarity that yes, electronics is not my forte, and maybe computer science or coding is something that I would like more. I would enjoy doing more. And of course, if you look at the placement, there are more opportunities that are there available for coding. So I consulted few friends who were into the computer science branch, some seniors, and some people who were already working at some premium companies. And based on that, I got an idea that yes, that is something that is doable. Being an electronics branch, we at BITS Goa had the freedom of zero attendance policy. So it was possible that while I am in the college in a different branch, I still get into a company that is more so like software background. So that is how it began. I started doing some easy competitive coding. For me, I had to choose between competitive coding and just like the kind of development that is done. It could be like web development or open source development. Again, something that is very popular in our college. A lot of people crack GSOC every year. I think something that is very common these days is also like startups in Bits Goa. I think the culture is going very strong. Very proud to, see the people, the startups that are being successful, the rounds that are being raised. Happy about that. I'll talk a bit about how it was for me. So for me, when I started with the development, I felt that it was more difficult. Uh, say there were a lot of unknowns, and if there was one particular bug or issue that I was stuck on, I was just stuck on it. I wasn't getting any kind of clarification like how I should proceed. As instead, all my fellow batchmates who were in the branch for data structures and algorithms, they were doing competitive coding, and they were into problem solving basically. So when I started with the easy problem, there were multiple times, multiple stages wherein I would be stuck with a particular problem. But I would always have someone whom I could reach out to whenever I was stuck on a particular problem. Like initially, it could be about trees. Later, it was about dynamic programming, be it segment fees, any of those things basically. Uh, so my motto was just to keep going. Never giving up on it because, uh, to be honest, my grades weren't that great in electronics either. So I knew like my best shot would be computer science itself. Like whatever I can do out of it, whatever I can make out of it. So yeah, say like 1 year down, I had solved at least about 200, 300 problems, got a fair idea about data structure and algorithm. So that is what my journey in bits was about technical things. Non-technical mainly, I was involved in badminton. I was part of the badminton team, participated in spree multiple times. Then there would be certain other sports. Of course, we would have all night long parties, and that's what we would do in hostel. That is how it was supposed to be during the pre-COVID times. Uh, I'll just proceed to my next section. Uh, that is about the bits placement. So at the end of third year, you realize that there'll be some placement that will be happening. And so that is that time when Oracle came, I noticed that Oracle was much more neutral. They focused mainly on data structures and algorithms. So we had 3 rounds of data structures and algorithms, and there was one round of HR technical interview. So HR interview, basically a background fit, culture fit. I would say don't take it, lightly. Be as serious about it. And there'll be some questions to understand if you're planning to do some kind of masters or whether you are targeting some other companies. So it would be important that you do not convey a message like that. You have to, as much as I would say that be honest, but I would also say be smart. If you say that you're planning to give your CAT exams in 6 months, so like as soon as you join in a month or two, you'll be starting your preparation for CAT. Next year, you'll be going for sure. That will, put you in a bad light. In case the company feels that they have other options, they might go for them. That is a place where I would say be careful and be smart, and maybe like a little bit of honesty. So placements was a tough time. We had to do a lot of other things as well. There was a lot of maths that was involved during the summer at the end of third year. There were a lot of companies. Overall, I could say that there were a lot of folks in the batch. Some people got placed in the starting and some got placed in the end. Most of the people got placed, but it was a tough time for people who were not, who were getting placed at a later stage. So that is about the placement journey that I had. Uh, I would like to proceed to my next section. That is a little bit about my first company, that is Oracle. So I joined Oracle in 2017. I joined Oracle as a fresher, and my designation was basically an application programmer. This was part of Oracle Application Labs, and what our team was responsible was basically building an software. Basically, it is called the Fusion Oracle Cloud. This is used by, say, the internal employees to place orders that are coming in the Oracle. Oracle being a B2B company, uh, there would be like big orders that will be coming in and lesser in numbers. It was less to do about scale and it was more to do about the functionality. But talking about Oracle, basically the kind of work that I had, it was less, it was more about the high level things, like learning more about the software that exists in Oracle and how things work at Oracle, and less to do with actual coding or actually building products from scratch. I mean that is a kind of opportunity that I did not get. As much as I would say that it is team specific. So I mean I would not discourage someone, or I would not say that that is the general trend in Oracle, but that is how it was for me in Oracle. So I got a good idea about how big companies work, how things are out there, about the product that Oracle was trying to build. Once I realized that it is less in line with what I was looking for, I started approaching my friends. I started speaking them all right about how their work culture is, what are the kind of technology items that they are working on. Once I got an idea that Flipkart was more doing things in line with what I was interested in. Sorry. So I decided to start applying at other companies. Luckily, I mean, I got into Flipkart. It was a good break for me. I mean, it was a I mean, I would say I made it into Flipkart with around 1.5 years of experience. I joined Flipkart as an SD1, and initially it was like it was very difficult. I mean, there were lot of things, lot of unknowns for me. I mean, since I did not have any development background in back in college, there were more hurdles for me. Everything was new. I would say there was some support at Flipkart, but not like, I mean, not as much as I would have wanted, but enough to help me with my journey at Flipkart. Uh, the products at Flipkart were more so, I mean, related, something that I could relate to. So I joined the user insights team. What we would be doing is there was a lot of data pipelines that we were building. It was about big data, so I hadn't worked in anything of this sort basically. Talking about distributed processing, like what we are using is basically Spark and the Hadoop ecosystem. That is, say, the Edge base, Hive, Spark, and this language that we had, that is Scala. So I was unfamiliar with all of this, but I mean, there was a short time. I mean, maybe like a week or two to start. I mean, to be ramped up with basics of these things, and then just get started. I mean, I had my first project, which was in web services. The platform that we were using is basically Dropwizard. Uh, Basically, it is a lightweight platform, something similar to Spring, that is more common and more widely used by people. So I got a chance to work in that. Sometime, I mean, into Flipkart, I mean, after a lot of learnings and with some hard work, I got promoted as an SD2. So here the roles and responsibilities changed. There were more responsibilities in terms of like managing the team, managing new joinees, helping them ramp up, enabling them to learn better, mentoring them, and a lot of collaboration with certain other teams. Like one of the products that about Flipkart, basically the products that my team is building, I can relate much more to it. Like if I were to compare it with certain other companies that are much bigger in nature, the kind of impact that you make is hardly it is uh, it is mostly less satisfactory to you, because the impact overall is much smaller. I mean, the bigger the company is, the lesser chance you would get to make a bigger impact. Flipkart, I would say it was different. The project that one of the projects that I am working on is basically the reordering of widgets at the homepage level. So that is something that interested me. I mean, just to speak more details about that. Basically, if you open the Flipkart homepage, there'll be certain widgets that will be shown to you, and these widgets are reordered, that is depending on personalization for each customer. So for each customer we will be classifying them as a certain affluence level. It could be low, medium, high, there would be certain demographics, there would be gender, like whether the user is categorized as a highly male probability or highly female probability based on the location, whether they are maybe from Delhi, Maharashtra, maybe Indore, maybe somewhere in the south, or maybe like Goa, Karnataka, or Tamil Nadu. Based on that, in case there is certain festival that is coming and we classify that a person belongs to a certain state, then we would know if a certain festival is approaching, there will be certain items that will be needed that are related to that festival. So we would be putting them in a higher priority for that person from that particular state, as opposed to people belonging to a different state. So that is, that this is the project that fascinated me. Some more things about, yeah, just a minute. Yeah. So I just updated the slide, basically what I was speaking of. And again, being a software company, and one of the what I would classify as a cooler company. We had football tables, we had table tennis tables, at almost, for each floor, we had some activity for games. We also have like pool tables. There'll be like cool fun outings, and there'll be like big parties that'll be thrown from the managers or the senior members of the team. So that is what I would like to say. Like, if I were to summarize, it's been a great journey, and currently I am working as an SD2 at Flipkart. The next growth level for me would be an SD3. It would be like bigger roles and responsibilities in Flipkart. I would also like to touch upon a little about the placement journey in Flipkart, maybe for on campus and in general as well. That is something more that the audience can relate to. So at Flipkart, what we have is like the first round is basically machine coding. It is supposedly a low level design. This is what happens when you are applying as a lateral hire in campus. All right, I'll touch upon what the process at campus first. At campus, it would be comprising of two DSA rounds, and maybe like the final round wherein you would be meeting with the HR, and they would just be finalizing more about your background and uh, your ambitions and your plans for the future. But as a lateral hire, what I had was a machine coding round. So, like some of the common low-level design problems that maybe like designing a snakes and ladder uh, board, or designing a chessboard, or maybe like designing a book my show application. These are certain low-level design problem statements that are given to you, and there is no restriction on the language. But to be honest, if you are developing in Java, then to showcase your object-oriented application skills, it is much easier in object-oriented programming skills in Java. It is much more easier. In Python, the usual process is more of scripting, basically. You will be writing most of your, there'll be less of classes and more so like monolithic code in which there'll be like one or two files that you'll be creating. Whereas in Java, a more class-oriented approach is in reach. So there'll be much more classes and much things will be much more structured. Is what is the preference basically? Uh, the ways people judge this round is basically based on the modularity, the functional completeness, the functional correctness, your understanding of the problem statement, how extensible your code is. uh, uh, I would be happy to clarify more on these terms, at the end if there are questions. Something that I would also like to speak about is Flipkart boasts a huge customer base of about 300 million customers. Talking about the scale and the QPS that we deal with could be as high as say 1 lakh or 2 lakh, which is like a good number. In certain scenarios, we would have to fetch the data for 2 lakh customers. So I'm not sure. How much people can. How much your fellow Christians can relate to this. But fetching that much of data from a particular data store is quite difficult. So we would have like mostly distributed database. There would be certain advanced things that we'll be doing at a thread level, and at the application level and at multiple layers, basically to make sure things are more optimized and things are much more scalable to support this high demand in designing your application, basically. So that is the opportunity that I got, basically, like designing scalable applications. Some more things that we focus on at Flipkart is building things more reliable, more available, more durable. Maybe I'll cover these terms a little later as well. Okay. So yeah, I think that is about my life at Flipkart. Something that I would also like to add is question that most people have in their minds during the college time, whether they should get into competitive programming or whether they should get into development. So my suggestion to this would be that, I mean, there is no one size fits all, basically. You could, I would say, more so like try to figure out what your passion is. I mean, if there is someone who is forcing you to do something, maybe they can do it for a few days, a few weeks, or a few months. But at the end, if you don't like it, I mean, if it is not something that you would that you enjoy doing, then I mean, you will more likely not be good at it. So definitely try to figure out. I would explore your hands at all the things. Another thing that I would like to add is like a startup scene. So you can try your hand at a startup or like development or like competitive coding. If you like if you think that you would like to explore or put in more time in one of these three domains, then then you'll be getting more clarity. I mean, what is it that you feel about it, and whether your interest lies in it, and yeah, and maybe like there'll be more subdomains like data science or machine learning under this development track as well. That is one thing about the placements. I would say that yes, the placements are highly oriented towards competitive programming. I mean, because that is what companies look for when they are trying to hire. This is the pattern that was set by Google. Basically, Google had in their hiring round, they were assessing candidates based on data structures and algorithms. And I mean, as we all know, Google is a successful company. So that is how the pattern began. A lot of companies tried to follow Google, and they said, "All right, we'll have little modifications." But for freshers, I mean, most people would not have projects that have had created a yeah, huge impact. So it would be they feel that all right, the people who are appearing in for the company interviews, they have some experience in DSA and maybe like the advanced data structure, that is DAA. So they feel that all right, maybe this is the criteria that we can keep. That is like a better criteria, seeing whether you will be good at development or not. It may or may not have a correlation with DSA. So personally, I feel that I mean, a lot of people could ask, all right, we have never used binary trees or binary search uh, in my life in work. But the point here being that if you can do well in say like binary trees or binary search, then we can say for sure that yes, you would be good at arrays as well. If there is some kind of sorting that is required, then you will be good at it. So they feel that all right, this implies that basically if you are good at say medium or advanced level of DSA, then you will definitely be good at the basic level. Basic level could be like just doing the syntax, just basically doing the debugging. Debugging and knowing the language is sufficient, along with, I mean, just having some skills for development in a work culture. To be honest, I never needed to use binary search. Binary tree, yes, I did have a use case wherein there is, I'll mention that. Okay. So, I mean, this is what I would like to. This is what my take would be about like multiple choosing between multiple domains. I myself faced this problem. I mean, there was a lot of friends who were preparing for GSOC, who did end up clearing GSOC, and maybe they have a different career trajectory. and I have a completely different career trajectory. But it all varies. I mean, they are happy, I am happy. Someone could be doing better in their career. They could be at a advanced level or some. I mean, this will always happen. There'll be certain people ahead of you, and there'll be certain people behind of you. But at the end, is what matters is basically if you're happy in doing what you're doing. So I would suggest that try to find that out, and I would say it is never too late for that. I mean, even if you join a company, I mean, maybe right as of at this point, you don't have that clarity. What is it that you should be doing? And I would say then choose what you think is right. But if you feel that it is not working out, I mean, it is always fine. You could just move on to like something like a front end development or something else that finds your interest at a later stage. Uh, so yeah, I think that is it about Flipkart and my general suggestion about companies as well. I mean, once uh, you have solved a lot of questions. I think the interview process is mainly, I mean, most of these interviews would not be preparing a fresh question. So it is something that is a popular question. So if you have solved like 100, 200 problems, that is enough, in my opinion. I mean, certain other companies, maybe like Google or Uber, you might face more hurdles. But in general, for cracking the DSA round at most companies, it is doable, even if you are not heavily invested in competitive programming. Uh, so yeah, in terms of development, I think the kind of opportunities that you will be receiving in India and abroad as well, there'll be a lot. And at abroad, if you have done more contributions in open source or like more publications, that is a much better sign. Like companies would prefer people with that particular background much better. I mean, that is, I mean, if you just send them your GitHub link and they can see, all right, you have made good contributions in one of the popular open source projects that they already know about, that will create a much better image in their head, as opposed to you being, let's say, a 4 star or a 5 star on Coaches. I mean, they would relate less to it. So that is what my take would be about these things. With that, I think I would like to end. I mean, I know I've been speaking for a lot, so I would like maybe prefer like if we can head to, I mean, the question and answers section. I mean, I'm happy to answer all the questions that are in your mind.
So that was a very fantastic and informative session. So now we'll proceed to the questionnaire. So I request all the viewers to put up their questions in the live chat, and I'll take the questions through the session. So, like you have mentioned this, but you are an electrical instrumentation student, yet you managed to secure an IT job. So that is the dream of several students in the campus. And so,
Definitely,
what preparation or advice that would you give them?
definitely. So yes, I noticed that. I mean, the kind of opportunities that are there in campus, maybe if there are like 200 opportunities as opposed to the number of people and CS students, that will be around 50 or 75. So definitely there are more opportunities than the number of students, which leaves more gaps. I mean, more opportunities for people who do not have a computer science background. So I would say initially, there could be a structured approach, that is starting with basic courses. I mean, we all have C in our first year. As far as I remember, it is in the first semester. So that will give you a basic understanding of one program language. I would say that build on top of it. If you like that, you can proceed on it. But one of these three languages, that is C++, Java, or Python, I would say like pick pick one of these or two of these, and try to go deep into that. That is about your language understanding. So having good language understanding is definitely a mandatory thing. In an interview, you would be expected in one at least one of the rounds. You would be expected to code in a bug-free, syntax-free. I mean, you would be expected to code that. Along with this, uh, another must-have that I would like to highlight is DSA. DA is like I would say things like AVL tree, red flag tree, or segment trees. These are very rare. So these are definitely mandatory. These I would say are good to have, but not a must have. Uh, but the basics of DSA, that is, say binary search or maybe just binary keys and a little bit about sorting, just arrays. These are definitely an option, and a little bit about dynamic programming as well. Some companies ask them, or some companies do not. But at least I would say go ahead and do the basics of dynamic programming. I mean, given the kind of understanding that the Pithians have, I'm sure you wouldn't find it very hard. Along with for me, it was I did a lot on Spoj that was popular back then. I did a lot of problems on code forces, and then I think somewhere in my fourth year I moved to code. So I did a lot on code chef, and in my fourth year I moved to code forces. But to be honest, the platform does not matter. All of the platforms are very good. Personally, I have used LeetCode as well. It is more like oriented towards company interviews and not competitive programming. So you can choose that as well. That is basically LeetCode. And I'll just say that once you choose a particular platform, then try to stick to a particular platform and try to solve more. I mean, the quality and quantity matters more. Uh, it doesn't matter like which platform you're actually doing it or doing questions from. There is no one right platform, and I mean there are no wrong platforms either. So yeah, just to summarize, basically, getting good at one particular language amongst C++, Java, or Python. These are widely used. Doing DSA and having some projects of development. I mean, uh, these could be the projects that we have in college as part of our course structure, but something more detailed. I mean, as part of your summer internship or your winter internship, some way or the other, if you can showcase that yes, you are genuinely interested in computer science. I mean, a common question that you will be facing in your interview is that all right, you belong to a non-computer science branch. Why computer science? So if you just say that all right, I am interested, that is not enough data points. So they would like to see more backing and like how serious you are. I mean, they should not be of the opinion that all right, this candidate maybe like yesterday or day before yesterday they saw this company, they saw this package, and they thought, okay, let's just sit in this company interview and then let's just see how it goes, and maybe at the end if I want to reject it, I'll just reject it. They would not like that. So if you can even showcase that, there are projects that you have worked on, what is the contribution that is made by you, they would be more convinced that yes, you are genuinely interested in computer science and you are sure about it. So have some kind of story in the back of your head, like what is how you will be tackling this question. So yeah, I hope I have been able to add some like I've been able to clear some air on that.
Yeah, nice. So, next question. So, like, at what point in your student life you decided on the direction of your career, and what time do you think is right for students to make this decision so that thus they can start learning courses, skills, and accordingly?
Sure. So I think your branch, your particular branch courses would start in your second year. So that is when you would be getting more idea. All right, do you like your maybe your core branch or some other branch versus like a computer science branch? Are you finding enough interest in it, and are you good at it? So I would say that somewhere around third year would be a decent time. If not, maybe like third year vacation, summer. Just the summer before your placements. That is like little less time, but I mean sufficient if enough hard work is put in that time. If enough questions are solved, if you can like cover all the points I just mentioned. So third year would be fine. I mean, talking from a placement perspective. But even if not that, I mean, if you, there are always cases where people feel, all right, they're interested in a particular core branch, they join a company, and then they notice, all right, this is not of my preference. So I would say, as soon as you start getting some idea about it, don't delay. I would say try to get more data points. Try to speak to your friends. I mean, given the kind of connections that we have in bits. I mean, there are multiple pages on Facebook as well. That is, I mean, that is a very strong network basically. So you can always reach out to your seniors about their work, what is it that they are working on. If there is certain clarity, maybe in terms of compensation, the work culture, the work-life balance, or the kind of projects, these can always be cleared. I am sure. I mean, even I'm happy to take such questions. Likewise, there are multiple. Multiple people I mean, that who are eligible to answer these questions. We'll be happy to take take such questions as well. So they can bring in more clarity. They can maybe mention like what other factors should you consider, what are the long-term factors, what are the short-term factors. So that will help you in making a more informed decision. It should not be uh, just like a random decision wherein you decide, all right, I'll just quit here, I'll start applying for certain companies tomorrow. So making an informed decision would be recommended, and yeah, so that is the timeline basically. But it's never too late. I mean, even if you have spent few years in a company, in something that you don't like, it is not late. I would just advise to move into something that you like doing than sticking to something that you don't like.
Yeah, nice, amazing. So, next question. There are many clubs, technical and non-technical, in the campus. So, how do you feel that they have helped you in your journey? And please shed some light on the clubs and departments that you are a part of.
Sure, sure. So I was initially part of clubs like Dawson and Dep, basically that were more like into sponsorship and marketing, and I think another was more around hosting people in the campus for fest. So I think these will help build a lot of skills that are required at a personality level. I mean, how good a speaker you are, or maybe how well you can manage certain events. But these they will make a difference in companies that do not have a technical background. Basically, that are the non-tech companies. Um, that are hiring for non-tech roles basically. So uh, speaking from like me being placed in Oracle and Flipkart, both like into software roles, these titles do not really matter much, because your experience in a particular project, your actual contribution in development, that will make a much better impact. So early on, I would say if you do not have that clarity, then yes, I mean, join a club of your choice, of your interest. Try to take in more responsibilities there. Try to understand more about how things work there. Having that understanding, maybe like how things work, taking in responsibilities, hosting a particular fest, that will help you in future. I mean, if you have to do something similar, I mean, if you are into operations or sales or some kind of role, or even if you decide to do some kind of MBA in your future, these kind of POR, basically positions of responsibilities, they will make a much bigger impact in your resume. So if you have any slight doubt that maybe you do not want to take it the technical route, then these are very good to have basically. And as much as possible, I mean, of course, the CGPA matters as well. If you can maintain a good CGPA and be part of these clubs, then definitely these are good to have.
Nice, nice. So, next question. How has college helped you in your journey apart from the apparel academic side?
Sure. So I think one way that college helped me a lot is the kind of batchmates that I had, the kind of friends that I had. There would be certain topics that maybe initially I was like, all right, this is too tough, or there would be a problem that like, let's talk about a topic. So there would be certain people who have already understood those topics well. So they would help me in clearing my doubts, in helping me understand. Then, I mean, there would be certain questions. So, explaining your problem, explaining a particular solution to a problem, that helps you in preparing for your interviews as well. Because at the end, that is what an interview is also about. I mean, you have to explain your understanding. I mean, there are always cases in which, I mean, you could be knowing the solution from A to Z, I mean, from completely, but you're not able to explain it to the interviewer, or maybe the interviewer isn't convinced. Then it doesn't matter. I mean, you knowing the solution or not knowing it, it does not matter. To be honest, I personally feel that is how it should be. because even at work you are given projects wherein you are expected to collaborate with other people. They do not expect you to work on a project at a solo basis. I mean, they encourage collaborative development. That is how it works faster. So they expect that you are able to explain your thought process to another people. So at college with your friend circle, or like maybe like other people whom you would reach out who are maybe better in the domain or have more experience in the domain, it could be seniors as well. They would help in mentioning certain things, like something as basic as when you're given data structures and algorithms question, there are certain clarifications that you should be making about the constraints of the problem, rather than jumping. Like if I just say that maybe like a basic easy question wherein you have to mention whether two elements sum up to a particular number or not. So I have noticed personally while taking interviews at Flipkart as well, if they see a question that they are familiar with, they would just jump into the solution. So that is not the right practice. I mean, you should be asking certain clarifying questions. Something as basic as maybe like if whether the array is sorted or not. Are we having just numbers, or can we have certain maybe like fractions as well, or do we have negative numbers, or maybe like does the entire memory array fit into does the entire array fit into memory or not? I mean, it is possible that the entire array is stored in a disk and you have to load it into memory every time. So I mean, loading the entire array is not possible in memory at in general. So I mean, these are the kind of things that you learn, and I mean, basically your friends and your network is helps a lot. I mean, which boasts of a very big network and a very successful network. So, yeah.
Amazing. So there's a saying the Phoenix branches are known for their tough grading. So how did you handle that pressure, even though that you're inclined to the IT side? So what advice can you give related to that?
Sorry, I just missed. Could you repeat that question, please?
Yeah. So Phoenix branches are known for their tough grading. So like, how did you manage the pressure of the tough grading? Like, even though that you are inclined to the computing side, computational programming. So what advice can you give related to that?
Sure. So, I mean, in that way, I would say that try to study a little bit. I mean, try to manage your time. I mean, it is more of a time management question, I guess. So, there'll be certain time. I mean, I would say maybe like 30, 70, wherein 30% time you invest in for those courses, and maybe 70% you invest in preparing for your interviews. Uh, so I mean, there'll be pressure. I mean, there'll be exams. I mean, back in when I was in college, we had like two terms and then one final comprehensive assessment. So I mean, exams would be very frequent. But yes, I mean, if you can divide your time, it would be best. Uh, so yeah, I mean, with the idea that already you just need to do like maybe like a CCP of 7 or 8 is what you're targeting, and along with that, a good knowledge in your interest basically. That would be like DSA or language, whatever you choose.
Good, good. So, how would you describe your college life in a nutshell? Like, how was it?
Sure. So in a nutshell, I mean, I still miss my college life. I mean, hostel is too much fun. I mean, we would be enjoying like most of the time. We would be either playing maybe like poker or just chilling. And I mean, you would be walking in one friend's room, one friend circle, and just jumping into another room with another set of friends. So it was too much fun. I mean, there was. I mean, I'm always happy to talk to mention to someone that yes, I'm from that's Goa, or like I mean that all right, bits is the reason that I have this kind of platform. I mean, currently I'm at Flipkart, but even if I want to switch to like say other top companies, maybe like the top 10 companies, if I were to name like say Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Apple, I know friends I have very good friends whom I can rely on, whom I studied with, so who are working at these companies. So I know I know for a fact that I can always approach them. They would be more than happy to tell me about how things are at in their teams, how things are at their particular companies, what is the interview process. So that kind of network is great to have. Uh, so yeah, I mean, it was awesome, man. I mean, that is what the tagline is also. I mean, with planning, it's magic. So yeah, it was magical for me as well.
Nice. So, what advice can you give out to your juniors on campus?
Sure. My advice would be enjoy as much as you can, with some direction in mind. I mean, just don't be like completely clueless while you're enjoying. If you can divide your time and like in preparing and maybe like building a career, that'll be great. Uh, and along with that, I mean, for the more studious ones, I would say that all right, I mean, this will be the like 4 best years of your life. So if you can spare out some time for fun as well, I mean, definitely that is something you should be doing. And there is no one right thing. I mean, and there is nothing like all right. At the end of these 4 years, you should have it figured out whether you want to do an MBA or whether you want to do a master's or whether you want to pursue a certain career in a certain field. I mean, it's completely fine if you're not able to figure it out. Just try to gather more data points and just keep trying out things. As long as that is there, you'll be good.
Fantastic. So that was a very excellent experience for all of us interacting with you and gaining much knowledge. So an hour has flown by so quickly, and I think it's time to wind up the session. So before winding up, do you have anything to add upon before concluding?
Sure. So I'd just like to say, like, thanks a lot for having me. And I mean, all of you, my like fellow good things, you can always reach out to me over LinkedIn as well. I mean, in case there is any kind of questions that you have, anything that comes to your mind based on what I have said, or some clarity that you need, I'll be happy to answer them. And yeah, I mean, I think work is a great fest. So have fun while you're learning. And yeah, good luck.
Yeah, so personally and on behalf of the entire business student community, I thank Abhinav Gupta for sparing time from your schedule to share your valuable knowledge and experience with all of us. Personally, it's an honor to host one of my super seniors in a big session like this. So I thank all my viewers for being such a wonderful audience, and I hope that all of you guys enjoyed the session. So once again, thank you everyone who was a part of the session. This is Harry signing off. Good night. Bye.
Sure. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.